Hmm. Oh, we're live. Good. So,
Yeah,
can I say your name?
yeah,
I,
sure.
sh- I should have asked you that before.
Yeah, of course you can. Yeah.
Okay, so good evening, everybody. This evening, we're joined by Phil from a vague location in the north of England. Good evening, Phil.
I,
Hi. We're just going to be chatting about flat Earth, of course, and other conspiracy topics. Uh, Phil, could you share with us how you came across the information for flat Earth, please?
how I came across the flat Earth?
Hmm. Yeah.
Well, at the beginning of 2015, right at the beginning when it first began, when it all exploded, that is to say, I just saw a video come up in my feed about with flat Earth in the title, and I'd been studying conspiracies for several years, probably about 7 years prior to that. So I'd seen every rabbit hole you can imagine. As soon as I saw a video with the title, with flat Earth in the title, I suspected that it was true. I clicked on the video, and within a minute or two, a few minutes, I knew it was true, and it was just so obvious.
Wow. So your initial gut feeling, do you think that's because of all the other things that you'd researched previously and you found a lot of truth in them?
Yeah, for sure. I know. I already knew that the whole scaffolding of the world is held up with the nuts and bolts of sheer deception, and that's very obvious from when you even look into every little thing, every little avenue from 9/11, chemtrails, vaccines, everything. So it's very easy. We know that liars will tell another lie and another one, and it never stops with these people. And so it was very easy. But prior to that, about 6 months earlier, I'd already knew that the Earth wasn't rotating though, because I'd seen an article. I think it might have been on Principles or Answers in Genesis or something like that, and it talked about the Bible saying that the circuits of the sun in the book of Job or the Psalms, and it was saying how the sun circles around the earth. So I know the Bible is true. So I knew from that that the earth wasn't going around the sun was going around the earth. And then I pictured in my mind a globe, and then I pictured, well, if the earth is rotating, then if a helicopter is hovering, it would have to leave the earth behind very quickly. It's 1,000 mile an hour at the equator. But of course it doesn't. And that makes no sense whatsoever unless the earth is still. And of course, you'd feel the earth spinning if it was spinning. And the only way that the helicopter wouldn't be left behind by the earth is if the air is also moving in perfect consort with the rotation of the earth, which would mean that little birds would have to be flying into 1,000 mile an hour wind, and that the wind would always have to be moving in the same direction. So obviously from that, I knew that the earth was still. But the mind washing is so strong that it still did not even occur to me that the earth was flat. That thought never even entered my head. I just knew from that point that the earth was still and that it wasn't moving and that the sun was going around the earth. And a few months after, I found out about flat earth, and it was just seamless to believe it, to know that it's the truth. It was just so obvious.
But this first video that you watched, do you remember which video it was?
No, but I would imagine it would have been maybe Mark Sargent or Eric DeBase. It would have to be someone at the very beginning of 2015, January, February time, because that's when I got in on it right at the start.
Right. And um, after watching that video, how did you feel?
Well, it was just so seamless, and it was just instantaneous in my mind. It was like, oh yeah, of course it's flat. It makes perfect sense because it's absurd to be upside down on a ball and not falling off. And I used to have this thought in my mind, maybe a handful of times throughout my life, no more. And the thought was that when you drop something, let's say you drop an apple, I used to think, surely it doesn't need anything pulling it for it to fall to the ground. Surely it just falls because it's got to fall. Because I could never see a pulling force, of course, and I could never feel it or imagine it. I couldn't imagine, I couldn't understand why it needed a pulling force, but I never carried that thought through to its logical conclusion because I just wasn't intelligent enough to do that. If I was, I would have thought, well, it doesn't need a pulling force. It doesn't have a pulling force. It's falling because it's heavier than the surrounding air it's displacing, which is flat Earth as we know now. But I just had that thought a few times during my life. Every few years, maybe, that thought would just come into my mind. Surely it doesn't need anything pulling it for it to fall. Surely it just falls down because it has to fall. But even then, I still didn't. The concept of flat Earth still didn't occur to me because it's like a spiritual blockage that these people lay on you through their lies and their deception, that you just don't think of these things until a whistleblower speaks it, and then you just believe it. If you're wise, you just realize it's the truth.
Yeah, I got a similar reaction to you. Like it just made sense instantly. I've just lost my train of thought because I interrupted myself. Sorry about that, viewers. So I'll just change direction a little bit. I was just going to say, you know, these thoughts of your apple falling.
Yeah.
Is it safe to say you always thought of an apple falling because of what we're told about Newton?
Well,
And
no, the apple could be anything. It wasn't because of Newton. It was just I could not understand why something needed something to pull it down, because you don't feel any pulling force. And that's the biggest proof that the Earth is flat right there. If you ask any 5-year-old who's not been to public school yet, you say, why can you not live on a ball on the underside of a ball? He won't tell you about the stars rotating in this hemisphere or the curvature test or refraction, or that he won't tell you anything. Like, he'll just say, but you'll fall off, Daddy. And any 55-year-old who's lived on a desert island all his life will tell you the exact same thing. That's the most powerful science. If it was a ball, you'd fall off. And then, of course, when told about gravity, the first thing that 5-year-old or that 55-year-old would say is, but if we're being pulled, why don't we feel it? Because pulling forces are always felt. But right there, that's the most powerful, intuitive, obvious proof of flat Earth. There is no pulling force, therefore the Earth is flat.
when you started to look deeper into flat Earth, what were the other obvious things that came to mind for you?
What about flat Earth? You mean the proofs?
Yeah, what were things that you know, you'd be doing, looking into it, and then you'd have these little moments. You're like, oh yeah, that's a bit obvious.
Well, literally everything from that point. Yeah. I mean, I couldn't understand the sunset for a while. I thought, why does it go underneath the horizon? I couldn't understand. I thought, surely it should just go smaller and smaller and smaller. But once you understand the law of perspective, it's very easy. With a pencil and a ruler, you can prove that it's just the law of perspective, or the law of convergence as it's known. And it's very simple. Then once you get it, you get it.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot to think of when you're looking into the distance, because there's different, you know, there's air densities and different types of atmosphere, clouds, rain and fogs and all kinds of things. And then obviously we need to learn how our eyes actually work, and so there's quite a lot of things. There's quite a lot of education goes on when you go into looking into these things. How long did you spend researching it when you got the
Well, just that perspective, or the flat Earth in general.
in general?
Well, yeah, I was always researching it. By research, I just mean just watching people's videos, and just I wasn't doing my own research as such. I wasn't doing any mathematical experiments or anything like that. I was just casually watching people's videos and just thinking about it and whatnot, just all the time, every day. Yeah, but as regards the perspective issue, you don't need any air density issue or the opacity of the atmosphere or anything like that. It simply anything will disappear below that horizon simply due to the fact that it's moving away from us. Even some flat earthers today I don't think they fully understand this, but if you imagine a plane moving in level flight, perfectly level flight above the Earth, we see it, the plane trail in the distance looks like it's taken a 45-degree nosedive, doesn't it? Or certainly a sharp angle nosedive. But obviously we know that that's not happening, that's just appearing to happen. That plane is flying in level flight, but everything arrows downwards towards the horizon. So obviously that plane trail will eventually have to hit, or appear to hit, of course, the Earth. It will have to, even though it's only going in level flight. Eventually, the law of the straight line is that if it looks like it's angling downwards, which it always does, of course, that line has to eventually intersect the Earth, and the point at which it does that is the vanishing point. And from that point, everything that's going further and further away will disappear, bottom, middle, and top. And everything that's coming closer to you, the exact opposite. It will reappear, top, middle, and bottom. And it's simply the law of perspective, or the law of convergence, as it's known. And you don't need anything to do with air density, or you don't need any other factor other than the law of perspective to prove that.
Would you say, because I've had the pleasure of meeting you, Phil, and I know that you're a very spiritual man. I was going to ask, has it made your faith stronger? But knowing you, I presume, I'm going to presume that's a no.
Yeah, it is a no, because I already knew him, and I mean, I took the flat. It was so seamless. It was like, oh yeah, of course it's flat. It didn't shock me really. It was a bit of a novelty in my mind, because it is a bit of a stunner, isn't it, finding out the Earth's flat? But it wasn't a shock in any way really. It was just, oh yeah, of course it's flat. Of course it's flat. That's why I kept having that thought. Surely things don't need anything pulling down for them to fall down. They just fall because they're heavier than the surrounding air they're displacing. And if they're lighter than the surrounding air they're displacing, like a helium balloon, it will float upwards. And the moment any object becomes 1 microgram lighter than that surrounding air it's displacing, it starts to float upwards, doesn't it? The moment it becomes heavier, it falls downwards, proving that its weight, it's not a pulling force, you know, it's just simply weight.
Yeah, it's the object's weight.
Yeah.
When you see these scientists on television, and well, I'm thinking of something in particular, but you've probably never seen it because you don't watch television. But there's a scientist in England, Brian Cox, and I saw him on the morning breakfast show. I've seen it in a clip, but he was trying to explain how gravity made the Earth a ball, and he's got a lump of sand, and he's trying to squish it into a ball using this force. And I was watching the presenter's face, and she's kind of like this. But they come out with all this silly stuff on TV and expect grown adults to believe it when a small child might find it difficult to believe. What do you know? Do you think that these people are real scientists, or do you think that they're just employed to push these agendas, or do you think they believe what they're saying?
No, people like Neil deGrasse Tyson and Brian Cox, they'll all know the Earth's flat, I believe. Because they want people like that. They want a safe pair of hands. So they'll have to be in on the team, won't they? I mean, can you imagine if they were genuine ball earthers and they really believed all that, and then they suddenly found out that it was flat? What if they blew the whistle on them and got a guilty conscience? These people, I believe, will be completely in on it at the very top. Obviously, a high school science teacher knows nothing. There's only one layer at the top that originate this information. Once you get even one strata below that, most people probably won't know the Earth's flat, and one below that, none of them will know, and below that. So the average man on the street who just lives a usual bog standard life, he never thinks about anything like of conspiracies. He just believes what he's told.
Yeah, and that's the clever thing, because when you talk to general people, I've had very in-depth discussions with people about this, and they understand what I'm saying, you know, that water always remains level, things like this, but they'll always go back to, but people much cleverer than me have, you know, figured it all out, and these people would never lie. Why would they lie? But like you say, the people telling them aren't necessarily lying, they're just repeating their own teachings.
Yeah.
So
yeah, this world is run by people at the top who are in direct communication with demons. It's simple as that. They have channelers on each continent, and that channeler just receives the information directly from a demon spirit, and he invites all the heads of industry agriculture, pharmaceutical, media, politics, military industrial complex. He just invites them into the room and he just relays that channeled information and they just simply implement it. It's as simple as that. And that's the whistleblowing testimony of Walter V. He had a Freemasonic contact. So he knew like his uncle's friend or somebody like that. God arranged this whole thing for him to meet this contact. And this contact just put him in touch with this man. I think it was on Africa. He was the channeler for Africa. And he said on every continent there's just a man who channels demons. And that's how they do this. That's how they got all these technologies, Danny. I mean, we went from the horses and carts only 100 years ago to touch screens on an iPhone, on Facebook, of billions of computations happening per second all over the earth in one lifetime. That's not going to happen. That would probably never happen, or wouldn't happen in 1,000 years. But to happen in one grandma's lifetime, they were given help. And that's in between 2 world wars, famines, earthquakes, pestilences, riots, political upheavals, diseases, endless wars, in fact, not just the world wars. And doing all that, amidst all that, we went from horses and carts to nanotech and an iPhone. That's simply not believable. I know electricity opens the door to other things when it's discovered, once it was discovered, but still, the smallness of the technology, the speed of the technology, the incredible efficiency of the technology. I mean, just a touch screen, all those pixels on the screen, all perfectly moving to the touch of your hand. It's like magic, isn't it? In one grandma's lifetime. Horses and carts. Now we've got planes that fly faster than bullets.
Yeah, when you say it like that, it does sound unbelievable.
Well, it is. That would never have happened without help. Even on Ancient Aliens on the History 2 channel or whatever it is, very mainstream, they were talking about how aliens, they're not really aliens, they're just demonic human hybrids. They're just the offspring of these Nephilim in Genesis 6. They talked about how they gave them fiber optics, how they gave men that technology, and they gave them all these technologies, I believe. And the whistleblowing testimonies that I've researched said that in Eisenhower's reign in America, they made like a deal with these entities that for the incredibly advanced technology and it wouldn't have been just his administration, it would have been probably countries all around the world, all the major powers. In exchange for these technologies, they would allow a certain quota to be abducted by these so-called aliens, but they exceeded the quota. Now in America, as of about 2 decades ago, over 2 million people were claiming to be abducted by aliens. It's not reasonable to believe that 2 million people are all making that up or are deluded. Many of these people are doctors, lawyers, teachers, perfectly normal people. And they definitely are being abducted, 100% certain, but it's not by aliens from planet Zeta Reticuli or the Pleiadians. It's simply these demonic human hybrid entities in Genesis 6 that operate in military bases underground. And they do have this super advanced technology. And they are carrying out these abductions without a doubt.
Now, 2 things off the back of that. One is I was always under the impression, not impression, but I was told by my mum, a reliable source of information, that any technology that we get, it's not just being, it's not new technology. They've had it in the pipeline for a long time, but they only release it to us in increments. One, so that we have to keep buying new stuff when it comes out, and I can't think of the other reason she gave me, but she, in her view, they've just always they're always a lot more advanced than what they say they are, so they run like 40 years ahead of us. But you're saying that it's directly given to them from different demonic entities.
Yeah, for sure. There's no way men could have advanced that quickly on their own. And a testimony of Stan Dale, he's a Christian. I've followed his ministry for a few years now. He used to work in the CIA before he was a Christian. And he was working on these so-called, flying saucers. And he said in the 70s when he was working for the CIA, they once gathered all the engineers together in a room. Now, this is a very reliable source, Stan Dale. You can go on his website. He's a Christian man. He's a good, righteous man. I've been following his ministry for years. And he said that one day they got all the engineering department together, the CIA, all of them that were working on these flying saucers, these anti-gravitic crafts, as they call them. And they got this guy in to just do this speech on the history of television. It was just this boring speech that he was just giving for about half an hour. And he was just walking up and down the aisle, and he was getting his handkerchief out and wiping his glasses, and then carried on with the boring speech about the history of television. Then all of a sudden he just vanished. Literally, it was a hologram.
Right. So they were using advanced technology then for that.
Yeah.
For that.
Yeah. So that's a testimony you can trust.
Wow. And the other thing I was going to say was, because you mentioned 2 million people going missing or being abducted, was I thought that the amount of people claiming to be abducted could have been caused by hysteria and the massive push on out of space aliens and just people not everyone having hysteria, but some people having hysteria and some people being involved in like military abductions, things like that.
No, it can't be the case. There's so many people, there's so many millions giving very detailed accounts, and these are people that are very reluctant to give their testimony. It's not something you want to be known for, is it? People would laugh at you 20 years ago even if you said that. But the accounts are so detailed and so so impossible to be faked in many cases, and it's definitely not hysteria. Hysteria is when people start screaming like maniacs when the Beatles step off a plane. You wouldn't make up a story about alien abduction just because of hysteria. It's not millions of people like that. It's not reasonable to believe that. This phenomenon definitely is real, but it's not what people think it is. The best thing to look at online, if you want to really know what the aliens are all about, is if you go on Sid Roth channel and type in LA Marzulli, then he gives you an excellent rundown of what they're trying to accomplish. They're literally trying to change our very being, these so-called aliens. And that's what's going to fit into the end-time deception of the Antichrist, which will be this mark of the beast that will literally change what it is to be a human, i.e. transhumanism. And that's why if they take this mark, they cannot be saved anymore, because they've actually changed from being a man created in the image of God to now an unredeemable creation, effectively, like a demon that can't repent. And that's what they want to bring man to, because Satan can take, you could be a devil worshipper, you could be dealing drugs in a nightclub, you could be robbing banks, you could be doing the most evil things. But as long as you're still alive, you still have the chance to turn away from evil and repent and turn to Jesus. So Satan could take a person all the way to the gates of hell, then have them just throw it back in his face and say, Jesus, forgive me. And that person will be saved if they truly mean it in their heart. But he wants a technology so advanced that they cannot repent. So he's got them then. And that's what the mark of the beast will be.
With things like transhumanism and the capabilities that the powers that be have, how close do you think we are to transhumanism?
Well, in those military bases in the ground, remember the decades, so they'll already have, they may have almost all the technology they're going to have for all I know, but in the implementation in the world as we see it, the world that we're living in, if I let my spiritual gauge take a reading, I would say it would be a few decades from now. I would think, but I could be wrong.
But still, it's very close.
Yeah.
That's the reading. And do you think they can clone human beings?
Yeah, they can.
Or the physical body, anyway?
Yeah, they can, they have.
What makes you say that, Phil?
Because the evidence, again, is overwhelming. You look at all the eyewitness testimony and all the different people that look different and they behave weirdly. Take, for example, Hillary Clinton. Now, there's an article online called The Bilocation of Hillary Clinton, and she was seen by eyewitnesses in 2 different places at the same time. And she behaves very weirdly at times. There's footage of when balloons are simply released from the roof. She makes this weird face, and she just like she's never seen, because the clones behave strangely. You know, they don't behave in an exactly human way, and some of the clones look different. Jimmy Carter he's been cloned as well. He was once running a marathon, and he was deathly sick. He looked like he was going to die. Then suddenly he was just taken away into a van, and this was eyewitnessed by many people. And then he suddenly came out of the van just moments later, a few minutes later, looking a picture of hell. They just substitute the clone. Like, there's all kinds of stories like that, and but stories that are more conclusively provable than that. That's just a couple of examples. And but as far, I forget all the evidence, but it's definitely overwhelming, and cloning definitely is real. They do that. We know they can clone. They already admit they can clone Dolly the sheep and all this thing. It's biology. They're cloning flesh. If they can clone animal flesh, why couldn't they clone human flesh?
So if they were to clone me, for example, would that clone have not a soul, a consciousness, or would they have to implant the consciousness into it, do you think?
Well, this is something I don't know. It's very hard to understand that, isn't it? Because you as a person created by God, you have a soul for sure. But the clone, I don't know how that works. It's not been created by God. So to me, maybe it doesn't even have a soul at all. It's just like maybe they just put a demon in the body. So it'll look like you, it will talk like you, it'll have exactly the same flesh as you. It could pass itself off as you, but it certainly isn't you. You know.
Yeah, so
hard to understand.
For example, I mean, I've seen lots of things online and articles, etc., of celebrity cloning, for example.
Yeah.
Do you think that these celebrities need so many handlers then because the clones have erratic behaviour, like you say?
Yeah, there's that, but the celebrities, some of them admit to being demon possessed. I mean, this Nicki Minaj, she admits to having a spirit in her called Roman, and other ones. And Britney Spears sings. She wants you to know she's been cloned. She's been cloned. And in the music, they tacitly, sometimes not so tacitly, let you in on it. Eminem's been cloned, I believe. There's some weird footage of him, like MK Ultra style footage of him, and many others. And the behaviour is just not normal. They're just staring blankly at the camera as though they've been hypnotised. You see several of them like that because something's gone on with these people. And a lot of these unbelievably rich, influential celebrities with moderate amount of talent or no talent, really. They're there for a reason. They get super popular and super rich super quickly for a reason.
Yeah, interesting. See, because they go on so much about cloning, there's a lot of it in the TV programming and lots of it on YouTube, for example. I certainly think they want us to think they can clone things, but I just wondered if it couldn't be part of the kind of the fear-based propaganda, and also just to lead us down the garden path. But you're certain in your mind that they're capable of this kind of thing.
Yeah, it's an astonishing thing. Cloning was really the only conspiracy that I didn't believe straight away. I didn't disbelieve it or believe it. I just didn't know. I just thought, has God really allowed them to go that far as to clone a human being? But remember, if they're just cloning the flesh, they're not cloning the soul. Your soul is you, and you're a totally individual being that cannot ever be another you. So really, all they're doing is cloning the biology of you, the flesh of you. So it's not you. It's not another you. It's just another body form of you. And for all we know, it could just be a demon that then inhabits that body as a host. I mean, there's footage of Hillary Clinton when she fell over. that day or about a year ago when she was trying to be president. She suddenly falls over as though she's been unplugged, a really weird fall, like she's a mannequin or something. And then just about an hour and a half later, I think it was, she was pictured in different clothing, stepping out of the New York apartment, I think it was. And she looked thinner with sunglasses and no security detail around her. And these people always have detail wherever they go out in public because they know what they've done to society and they always want to have armed guards in case anybody ever, you know, a conspiracy knower ever wants to pay them back for what they've done. They make certain that they've got armed guards.
I did see that clip that you're referring to, and it certainly was very strange, the way it all went down. And she almost, when they dragged her into that van, she almost looked stiff, um, like a mannequin. But we know she wasn't a mannequin because we just seen her standing there and fall. But I'm just saying, like, her body seemed to go stiff. So yeah, that was very peculiar. But as we're on to Hillary Clinton, you know, when you mentioned there's eyewitnesses that have seen her in two places at the same time.
Yeah.
Could they not do that just to, you know, because they're trying to cover so many public venues in one day, you know, and like that, just trying to fool the public. So they use a stand-in.
Well, there's lots more proof as well, though. If you look at George Green on the online, um, I mean, there's an entire hospital wing in, I think it's, I don't know, it's Cedar Sinai, one of those famous hospitals in America. It was in a hospital anyway in America, and they have an entire wing dedicated to like clones. And he was talking about that they just need to take two cells from your cheek and they can clone people. Now, obviously, they have to have permission granted to them by God, because God doesn't just allow them to do whatever they want, literally. But because men do such evil things, it allows Satan so much inroads into the earth. It allows him the lawful right to do these things. So everything works in this spiritual courtroom. And Satan petitions God all the time for men. He petitioned him for Job's life. And God didn't allow him to take Job's life. He allowed him to take all his possessions and his family, but not allowed to take Job's life. But he did allow him to hurt him physically without taking his life. And Satan covered him from boils from head to foot. So he's very thorough. But because God did not allow him to actually kill Job, he couldn't kill him. So if people are wondering, well, why are we? I mean, we were in front of Sheffield Town Hall the other day. Can you still hear me, Zanny? Hello? Hello? Can you hear me? Hello?
38.
Can you hear me?
Oh, hiya. Sorry down there for a moment. Hello. I'm still here.
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah, we just was getting a bad signal there. Can you hear me? I can hear you.
It's on a delay now, though.
Hiya. Okay, it should stop now. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, but it's a little bit delayed. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, so we were in front of Sheffield Town Hall the other day, weren't we?
We were.
And we were like, that's like rubbing it in the face, isn't it? I mean, that's with flat earth banners and talking to hundreds of people. Yet we weren't arrested, were we?
No.
Nobody killed us, nobody took us away. Because Satan cannot control everything. He can only control what God allows him to control, and God only allows him to control it because men have sold out to Satan. So, everything works according to that weights and balances in that spirit realm. He makes petitions for men, but if God's protecting somebody, there's nothing he can do about it. That's why we're talking right now. Do you think that they would want us? Do you think that the people that are ruling the world want us talking about Hillary Clinton being cloned or the Earth being flat? No, of course not. But there's nothing they can do about it, other than they try to every little thing they can do. Of course, they're trying to start to censor the internet, aren't they? And by, but only as God allows it can they do it. Otherwise, you wouldn't have YouTube channels with millions of views talking about shapeshifters and Illuminati and the Federal Reserve. You wouldn't have that. This simply would not be able to do that. But God allows the whistle to be blown on these people, so that no one has excuse then. So the information has been shared, the lid's been lifted, it's all come out into the open. Every conspiracy you can imagine now has been found out. So do you think these people that are ruling the world, do you think that they thought we would figure them out as well as we have done? By God's revelation?
I'm not sure how to answer that. I think that I really don't know, because when you were saying, about God only letting certain things happen, then it takes my mind to the terrible things that people do to innocent people and animals, etc. And then, my argument would be, well, why does God let that happen to those people? Is he not protecting the innocent? And I don't want to get into an argument about God his job, but just you're saying we never got arrested in Sheffield, for example, and that's because we were doing good work. But there's lots of bad things happen to very, very good people.
Yeah.
You see, so I don't really want to. That's just where my mind goes. You see, and
the best testimony for that, or a great testimony, would be to go on YouTube and watch a video called Howard Pittman Placebo. And then he died on the operating table in 1979, this man, and he was a Baptist pastor of 35 years experience. And when he died, an angel gave him a tour of the second heaven, that is the spirit realm, where the angels and demons operate. And the angel explained to him how demons operate and why that they're allowed to do things even to children in certain cases. And he explained that sometimes lawful, see, everything works by this free will. Yes, God allows things. Well, the word allow isn't correct really, because to allow implies that it's okay. I'm allowing you to do. God doesn't allow any evil act, but he doesn't physically stop them. If that's what you mean, obviously. But what the angel showed him is that he showed him how demons enter men. They have the power of suggestion. They don't force their way in, but they attempt. And he told him there was a classification of demons that had a special category whereby their ability to remain undetected. So you'll think it's your own fault. You'll feel it's your own feelings, but it isn't. They're using you like a horse, and it's way too far advanced for us to figure it out. That's why we need the revelation of God. We all need that. Even I need that, of course. All Christians need it. Otherwise, you can be really convinced by something, but like a magic trick, these magicians exist. They pay their bills because they're clever. The hand is quicker than the eye. And you're sure that you saw it disappear into his right hand, but fooled you. And when it's in real life, and there's divorces, and there's health, and there's conflict, there's wars, the demons are very good at the job. And men are very, very easy to be deceived.
I'll agree with that. Men are very easy to be deceived, yes. Going back to MK Ultra, because when I was looking into MK Ultra, there wasn't a lot said about demon possession, but like you said, you mentioned celebrity singer, and I know a few others that have said, that taken over by something else when they perform, and they'll openly admit that. And some will even have like a different name for this presence that takes hold. But I always thought MK Ultra was just about just splitting a person's mind so that they're easier to control, and so that they can use them as spies and they don't know that they're even doing espionage work, for example. But there are a lot of researchers out there that do say that it is also to place a demon into someone. So is that kind of what you're saying?
That is exactly what MK Ultra is. When the word mind control and programmed multiples and all that, that is the demons. Obviously, your mind is only one. There's only one Zanny. There's only one Phil. Your mind, you only have one mind. So when they talk about multiple personalities, those multiple personalities are the demons, and that's how they can do what would be unthinkable things. And that intrinsically is the demons. It's not another part of their mind. That's the demon using their mind as a host. And they could have many different personalities because they could have many different demons. And Beyonce refers to this spirit called Sasha Fierce, doesn't she? And she openly admits that this spirit enters her and makes her do things that she would never do if she was just on that stage without it. She wouldn't, dance provocatively and gyrate around like that. She wouldn't do all those things were it not for that she was possessed by this unclean spirit. And Nicki Minaj, I was talking about earlier, she even speaks in like a posh English accent when this other spirit comes into her that she says was conjured up. She used the word conjuring, which is like a magical demonic term. She said he was conjured up for a reason. I want him to leave, but he won't leave. He was conjured for a reason. So they openly admitting this. And, we need to pray for these people because they can still be saved. People in the Bible had demons cast out of them. People today can have demons cast out of them. Just because they're possessed doesn't mean they're beyond hope. They're certainly not.
So when MK Ultra talks of using code words and triggers and sounds, etc., as triggers to bring forth a different personality. So are you saying then these code words and triggers are to bring forth a different entity?
Yeah, that will just be the sign to the person that they're to step aside, and then the demon can take over. But it's 100% demonic, 100% certain.
So is it possible then for a person to be completely possessed and to have a demon work through them and have that person do things that they wouldn't normally do, and have that person not remember the bad things that they've done?
Definitely, yeah. Sirhan that allegedly killed Robert F. Kennedy, he said he didn't even remember doing it. But regardless of that, I've heard so many testimonies down the years of people who actually became Christians after, and they said that they weren't in control. I mean, it's an astonishing thing, but I mean, it is that real, it is that powerful. When Adam sold out in the Garden of Eden 6,000 years ago, the ramifications of that are still reverberating now in our lives. And yeah, that can definitely happen. They won't know they've done it. They won't be in control. That saying, I don't know what came over me. That's why we have that saying. It's not a cop-out. When people say that, I mean, obviously some people might be saying it as a cop-out, but many, many people, when they say that, it literally is. It's the truth. Something else came over them. I don't know what possessed me. It's a way of describing something that is non-human. And another great book is Alien Entities by Lester Sumrall, Sumrall, and that gives a really detailed analysis of these so-called aliens. They're not aliens, but demons basically. And there was one of them that made headlines all over the world, this invisible force that showed bite marks on this person's legs, and it was witnessed by several people, and it made headlines in, oh, he said he didn't think there was a country in the world that it didn't make headlines. And it was a real case of demonic attack on this man. And these things are definitely real. I was attacked by one myself when I was about 17. So I know it, and it used my mind. It puppeteered my own mind for about a minute, maybe a minute and a half. And it was the most staggering amount of fear, far more fear. If a lion jumped into that room there, Zanny, where you're doing this hangout with me, you still wouldn't be as afraid as I was for that minute.
Do you mind sharing that experience with us, or is it a private experience?
No, I'll tell you what it was. I was about 17 years old at the time, and I was in the house on my own, which itself was very rare back then. I come from a big family, and there was always people in our house. So it was very rare that I was under my peak moment, in other words. And all of a sudden, with literally no previous train of thought whatsoever, thoughts of Big Brother, surveillance, the government are going to find you, you're going to end up on the streets, the army, the military, the police, they're all going to find you, they're going to end up homeless, you're going to be on the streets, they're going to come for you, they're going to control you, they're going to cut you off. And it was the most unbelievable panic. I mean, it was an other dimensional panic like I've never had in my life. And I was about to run downstairs to ring my sister to ask her to come into the house so I wouldn't be alone. When all of a sudden, well, first of all, as I was about to do that, then I suddenly started to have good thoughts in my mind, like, no, I'm not going to end up on the streets. Friends will take me, and I've got family, I've got friends. Someone will help me, and I started to try and fight it back like that. And I started to try and regain some composure. Then as I was doing that, suddenly I sensed something to the left-hand side of me. And it was about 5 feet away from me. I just turned around and looked at it. And it was like, it was the shape of a head, like a human head. It was invisible, and yeah, I could see it. I could see the outline of it. It was like, if you've seen that film Predator, where the animal, the monster is invisible, and yet you sort of see it shimmering, don't you? It's like a transparency sort of thing. It was a bit like that. I was like I was looking into another dimension, and I was seeing this head. And I knew that all the thoughts of panic that I'd just been having, that were totally taken over my mind, I knew 100% certain, I knew that they'd come from this head that was about 5 feet away from me. And I just looked at it for a few moments, and then just looked away and just looked at it again. And it just, over a few seconds, the thing just faded away. And the fear that had been 100% just a few moments earlier went to literally zero. I had no fear whatsoever. I didn't even ring my sister up. Just went downstairs, put the telly on, and just carried on my life as normal. And that day, I knew what it was like to be attacked by a demon. It was the first time. I've been attacked other times since, but mainly in dreams. But that was to this day, it's the biggest demonic attack I'd ever had. Now, if that demon of fear, it was the spirit of fear that, if that had been able to get into my head and stay there, I would have been a person that from that day on would have had panic attacks, and I would never know why. And if you went to the doctor, he would no doubt blame it on a chemical imbalance in the brain, give you some pharmaceutical zombie drugs, and then your life's changed for the worse then. He's not going to believe it's an evil demon, is he? But I saw it.
Well, I can't argue with what you saw and what you experienced. And I'm not a doctor, so I definitely wouldn't prescribe those zombie drugs. That sounds like a very frightening experience. Did it take you long to get over that? Like, how did
No, it didn't. See, that it didn't take long at all, because like I said, from being absolutely 1000% panic, more panic even than if someone pulled a gun on you, because the fear was inside. You know, if a lion jumps out at you, it's still outside of your body, isn't it? What if the lion's actually inside your own mind and you can't fight it? And it's literally pulling the strings of your mind without you even realizing that it's. I didn't realize when I was thinking those thoughts that they weren't my thoughts. So not only did the demon have the power to get into my head for a short time, it had the power to make me not realize that it wasn't even me that was thinking these thoughts. To me, they felt like my own thoughts, but they were so incredibly panicky and powerful. But they weren't my own thoughts. The demon was using my mind as a host for that minute. But once I discerned it, thank God that I discerned it. And once I discerned it, it left, and the fear left completely. I mean, it went from 100% to 0%. So that fear, it was pure demonic. It wasn't. There was no resonance of fear after that afternoon, none, because the demon left completely. You see, It was purely, I think God allowed that day to show me just how powerful these things are and how much they can get inside people's heads, and for me to have understanding, compassion for other people, to think, well, that happened to me. It could have been me that did that unthinkable thing. Because if that thing had got full control of me, I dread to think what could happen. Now, if the spirit of murder or a spirit of violence gets into somebody's head and stays there, that's how they do unthinkable things like that. They would never have done that on their own. That's the thing. They would never have ever done that. People can do bad things, of course they can, but the extent of the evil, you'd never have deeds so evil as we see in society without supernatural help. It would never happen like that.
Do you not think that other people can drive each other to do bad things? You know, like say a man and wife, for example, they might argue and the arguing gets worse, and over time it gets more intense, and then one night they're having a really intense row and one of them snaps and chokes the other one to death.
Yeah.
Do you think that, you know, that's possible, or do you think that it can only happen with demon intervention?
That kind of evil would only happen with demonic help.
Okay. On this day when you had this experience, was it instant that you recognised it as a demon, or was it after like some time contemplation? I know you saw the thing that you saw, but was it instant that you said that's a demon? You know, in your mind, that's a demon, get away, or was it later? You know, when you went upstairs and you thought that could have been a demonic attack, or?
Well, I knew right away that those thoughts of panic had come from that thing. So I knew it was an evil spirit. I knew it was something evil. Yeah, it didn't occur to me, you know, an hour later. It was straight away. It occurred to me. I knew that those thoughts had come from that evil thing. So I knew straight away that it was that. And I thank God that it didn't actually get inside my head to stay. Because if it had done, I would have been a person with panic attacks. I'd have just had a spirit of fear, and then I would need deliverance. I would need that demon to come out of me. You know, because when they take these drugs, that only masks it. That doesn't get rid of the demon. See, people have this misconception. They think, well, I take the drugs and I don't feel afraid anymore. Yeah, but that doesn't mean it's not a demon. That just means you're suppressing the demon's influence. But it's like the payback. What's the word? The catch is that you lose your personality then, because now you're no longer that sharp-minded person that's as aware to the world as you were before. Now you're more like a zombie, because it dulls you. It's not getting rid of the problem, it's just papering over the cracks, if you know what I mean.
I do, yeah. Okay, so all these leaders in the world, not all of them, but the main people and people that lead countries and heads of industry and things like this, they all consort with channelers who are channeling demonic information.
Yeah.
So basically, they're being given their work schedule by demons.
Exactly.
In your opinion, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just thinking, yeah. But a lot of them, they're definitely evil people, in my opinion. Why they're evil, I don't know. But there's no arguing that they are evil and they act out evil things.
I'll give you another testimony, right, from Steve Quayle. That's Quayle. Steve Quayle. Now, I've followed his ministry for years, right? He's a righteous man of God. He's a Christian man. He's been a Christian for about 30 years, right? And you can go on his website. I followed his website for a few years. And he's an American, and he was told a 4-star military general came to him. I presume it was an American general, because he's an American. And this 4-star general told him that he was present at a satanic ceremony at an underground place in the Vatican, where world leaders were gathered together. This is a few years back now. This is before Trump. But world leaders were gathered together and a satanic ceremony was performed in front of them. And a little child was sacrificed to Satan in order to summon up a huge demonic, 15-foot tall giant demonic entity, and then they fed the little girl to the giant. And of all those world leaders present there, Hugo Chavez ran out in disgust at what they were doing. Now, what do you make of that? Steve Quayle's not a liar. He's definitely telling the truth. So that four-star military general did come to him and tell him that.
Yeah, I don't know what to make of it. I know I have read lots of articles and watched many videos about the elites being involved in satanic worship and satanic practices, and sacrificing children, and also eating the flesh of humans and the children that they sacrifice. So there's lots and lots of information on it out there, and obviously they're worshipping something. They believe that they're worshipping something. So yeah.
Well, they're ruling the world for a reason. You know, they're carving it into the very architecture for a reason. The Vatican inside, one of those buildings are in the Vatican. It looks like a serpent looking at you in the inside, with two eyes of a serpent, a tongue of a serpent. The building itself is shaped like a serpent's head. The Pope's been pictured on his chair with an inverted cross. That means an upside down cross on the back of his chair, which is a symbol of Satanism. They've got a camera called Lucifer, this ridiculously contrived acronym for something like large ultraviolet camera infrared field and whatever. They've made the acronym Lucifer. You know, it's very obvious that these people are serving Satan, and that's how they get that power, and that's how they stay in power. And that's why that's why there's millions of starving children in the world. That's why we've got crime in the world, even though we've got those planes that fly faster than those bullets. And yet, what we can't stop, like hundreds of muggings happening a day. There's like about there's 75 murder inquiries in London alone this year so far. I think it was 23,000. It was something ridiculous like this, moped attacks in the UK, or it might have even been just in London in 1 year. 23,000, if I remember rightly.
What kind of attacks? Sorry.
You know, mopeds.
Yeah.
Someone just riding up to you on a moped, assaulting you or stealing your phone and driving off. And I mean, if world leaders were good people, then we'd have a good society, wouldn't we? Because they're leading the world by definition. So if the world's riddled with crime and corruption, then the world leaders must be themselves. They're leading the world, so therefore they must be that. It must be mirroring their personalities, mustn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe Trump's one of them. I think he's on our side. But the other world leaders I'm talking about, or most of the world leaders.
I don't think any of the world leaders are on our side. Now, it's interesting that you say that. What is it about Trump that makes you feel that he's on the side of the people?
Because Trump was prayed and prophesied into power by Christians in America. There's like 10,000 people on Facebook round the clock praying over and over again to get Trump in power. And with Donald Trump, he's an answer to prayer, because in 2005, I think it was, a man called Chuck Pierce prophesied that in 2016 there would be a victory for the people. America needs to learn to play the Trump card, he prophesied. Now, Trump became president. 7 is God's number, right, in the Bible. It's throughout the Bible. It's known as his number. He rested on the 7th day, and it's listed throughout Scripture over and over again. And on Trump's first full day in power, he turned 70 years, 7 months, and 7 days old in the Hebrew year 5777.
Right.
So it was 70 years, 7 months, and 7 days, or 70 years, 7 weeks, and 7 days. It was 777 on it, right? And he's not like that. We've never seen anybody like Trump. He just speaks from the heart. He's not like a politician. He's nothing like a politician. And I think he does want to do good things for America. I don't think he's one of them.
So if you believe that Trump was prayed into power,
Yeah.
and it was prophesized,
Yeah.
then do you think that voting counts?
yeah, it still counts because you still got to, people have still got to be faithful to vote for the good over the evil, haven't they?
Oh
And because
yeah, sorry to cut you off there, Phil. I was going to say, yeah, people still have to go and vote. Well, they're given the option to go and vote, and they're given the option of who to vote for. Um, but in my opinion, obviously I don't have the same religious views of yours, but in my opinion, I've just always thought that they know who's going to lead what countries when, and it's all organised and arranged years in advance. It's all decided behind closed doors years in advance, and we're just given the illusion of the voting system, and they only want us to go down and vote just so they count the votes and everything's counted, but that's only so that they can see where the public mentality is at, you know.
yeah, well, in order to see about what you would have to do, you'd have to watch this Mark Taylor prophecy. So another little assignment, if you wanted to do that, or if anybody in chat wants to watch this, just go on Sid Roth, his YouTube channel. That's Sid Roth, Sid Roth, and just type in Sid Roth Mark Taylor, and it's like a half-an-hour show, and he explains how God gave him the prophecy of Trump and the encounter that he had with God, and he prophesied this in 2011 before Trump even made any saying that he was going to run for president. And there's other
Um,
things as well. There's too much to go into, but you'd have to just watch that before you make a judgment on Trump. Just nobody can make a judgment on Trump until they've seen that program. You would have to see that program and look at the Mark Taylor prophecy to really see both sides of the story.
okay. Um, just on a side note, because Mark Taylor might have had the prophecy, but so did the Simpsons. They kind of knew what was going on with the whole Trump thing well in advance. I'm just wondering how far in advance that was. The Simpsons episode. I don't know if you've seen it. Like part of the
Yeah, I've seen
predictive
that.
programming.
Yeah, yeah, but I mean, yeah, you just have to see the. I mean, Donald Trump was a very famous man. It's not a big stretch, really, to say that he might become president, isn't it? So the fact that Mark Taylor prophesied him becoming president, it's not that proves that he's a prophet. It's all the other things that he says as well. So
Okay.
you'd have to look at. It's more deeper than just saying that Trump's going to become president. That isn't really that big a stretch, is it? He's very famous, very charismatic. You could see someone that becoming president, couldn't you? But it's far more detailed than that. So he prophesies as well that Hillary and Obama's going to jail, and that there's going to be trials in America like the Nuremberg that would make the Nuremberg trials look insignificant in comparison. And I really believe that's coming soon. He's prophesied that this devil worshipping order, Luciferian order, is going down. So I think you're going to see that over the next few years. You're going to see major things happen, and yeah, you just have to watch it. You'd have to watch it.
Do you not think that in order for Trump to be able to hang with the people he hangs with and do the kind of deals that he does and reap the benefits in life that he does, that he's not had to make deals with these demons and do evil things to get that far?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
Remember, there's always the exception that proves the rule, isn't there? It's
There
not
is.
impossible for a Christian to be a rich man, to even be a billionaire. I mean, people in the Bible, Joseph was effectively a billionaire in his day, and he was a very righteous man, second in command only to Pharaoh. So it's not impossible. It's the norm. All these billionaire bankers, most of them have sold the soul to Satan. The heads of pharmaceutical giants and all that. We know all that. But there's always the exception that proves the rule.
Okay. Yeah. You know, I'm just gonna give you a question that you probably couldn't possibly answer, but I just want your thought on it, just as we're going along. Could it be possible that somebody in Trump's position could be making small deals with these Luciferians or with, you know, with Satan or whatever, but as a trick, you know, doing little things to keep them happy, but also, you know, letting God know, I'm doing your work, but I've got to just get my hands a little bit dirty for them to let me in the door.
No, it doesn't work like that.
Okay. No,
Definitely not.
just thought I'd ask.
Yeah, no, it definitely doesn't work like that.
Okay. So just make a note of that.
Both God and Satan are very jealous for men's souls.
Both God and Satan are very jealous, is that right?
Yeah. They both want the glory, you see, but only one of them deserves it.
Okay. So I didn't know that. I knew that because I did go to a church school, and I did know that we give the glory to God, but I didn't know that God wanted it. So I didn't.
Yeah,
I wasn't.
that's all he
I
wants.
wasn't ever taught that bit.
He wants the glory because he deserves it. He says,
It
my
says,
glory I will not share with another. He tells us over and over again to worship him. Worship means worship because he alone is worthy.
okay. So we've kind of gotten off the track a little bit because we've gone down this but it all ties in because the world it is always about good and evil, right and wrong, and as you say, there is these things. Well, I don't know if they actually go on because I've never been to a satanic event, but there's lots and lots of articles and videos out there that suggest that this stuff does go on and this is how the world is run. How deep it goes, I've no idea, but they don't do it for nothing, do they? So when we're being educated in school and they start teaching us about the nature of reality, the physical nature of reality, and they start giving us this false education of how things are, and it's on this magic spinning ball that water's glued to. Is that a direct, or is that, in your opinion, the devil mocking God directly by getting God's creation to think, yeah, to think unnatural things, because it's an unnatural thing to think, isn't it, that you live on a spinning ball flying through space?
Schools are just absolutely pure evil. They really are. No child should go to school. Everything is just a lie. It's literally kidnapping your children. I mean, who are these people to tell you that your children are your children? They're nothing to do with them. Public school system is just the mandatory nature of it itself is wickedness. God's given your children to you, to act as steward and the parent over them. Nothing to do with the school. They've got no rights whatsoever over your child, and yet they're just bullying people. Essentially, it's kidnapped for 8 hours a day, and they teach them nothing but lies because they know Satan knows that his stories are so absurd that you have to be taught them as a 5-year-old upwards to believe them. Like atoms as well. Atoms, as we're being told them, it's obviously a lie. To have electrons moving around in an unbelievably tight centrifugal turning circle at phenomenal mind-boggling speeds, close to the speed of light, and yet you don't feel any heat or friction or anything of that in your body, is absurd, isn't it? There's no footage of an electron moving on the internet. You can't find anything. All you see is a CGI image of just loads of little circles, which means obviously literally nothing.
Well, yeah, I can't remember ever seeing an atom.
No one's ever seen an atom. There are no atoms. If atoms were real, on your very first day at high school or junior school, they would show them to you, wouldn't they? They'd say, look, children, everything is made of these fundamental particles. Obviously, we have to start with this. But they didn't, because there isn't anything of the sort. It's all lies. And obviously, these people being so deceptive, they wouldn't tell you the truth about the fundamental building blocks of all reality itself, would they? That alone shows it must be a lie. So yeah, atoms as they're telling us is completely false. If you cut a piece of wood open and look at it with the most powerful microscope you can buy, you'll just see wood, still wood particles. You won't see anything moving. There's nothing moving. Your hand isn't shaking like that all the time. If everything's made of atoms that are whizzing around at phenomenal speed and these electrons are moving, so we don't feel any speed, we don't feel any heat. Tremendous speed generates heat. There's nothing of the sort. It's just a ludicrous story, just like the ball Earth. And they have to teach it. They have to teach it at schools. That's why they're mandatory, because you'd never believe that on your own, would you?
No, I never would have come to that conclusion without school and those cartoons in books. So yeah, thanks school. You know chemistry then, while we're talking about school,
Yeah.
and did you like chemistry at school, Phil?
Not really.
Not really.
I didn't like the thought of having to go to school at all, but I did.
Fair enough, yeah, I get that. I quite enjoyed chemistry up to a certain point, but I remember learning the periodic table, and I remember looking at the periodic table about 12 months ago, and there are more elements than there used to be. So I looked up these elements, and they've was discovered by certain people, you know, in the time since I've left school. But talking the main elements that's on the periodic table, do you think that everything is made up out of those elements, or do you think that that's just more lies as well?
Well, I don't know. All I know is that atoms, as they're telling us, are obviously fake because they make no sense whatsoever. And you've never seen one with your eyes. They're not seeable with the eyes. They never show you any. Even they don't even bother to show you any video footage, even faking footage of it. They don't even bother with that. So obviously we know that things are made up of different particles. A wood particle is not the same as a metal particle. It does not have the same properties. But there's definitely no atoms, as they're telling us, with electrons whizzing around and all that. That's obviously a lie. But yeah, I mean, pretty much everything they say is a lie, which really means they're in a position of weakness, isn't it? Because if you have to lie to get your way, that's weakness, isn't it? It's like taking steroids to win a 100-meter race, that isn't it? Yeah, you might win the race, but you lie, you cheated, so your victory means nothing, and it's only a matter of time because the truth always outlives a lie. Because truth is of God, which is eternal, whereas the lies of Satan, he needs a created being.
Ah, okay. I did wonder about that. I didn't get very deep into my Bible studies at school. So, did God create Satan then?
No, he created Lucifer, and Lucifer turned into Satan by his own invention of wanting God's glory. God created Lucifer. Lucifer was a righteous angel. The word Lucifer, Luce means light, and fer in Latin, ferre means to bear. So he was light bearer. He didn't bear darkness, he bore light, which is a righteous thing. That's why the name Lucifer, it sort of has a pleasant sound to it, isn't it? Lucifer. It's just, that's the name God gave him. That wasn't an evil name. That was a righteous name that God gave him. And he was an angel of God who worshipped God and was very wise, perfect in beauty, the sum of wisdom, perfect in. It just says he was the consummation of perfection. He was described in the Bible, in the book of Isaiah or Ezekiel, as being this very high-ranking, beautiful, wise angel. But he lusted after God's glory. You know, like if you see a pop star do something, you know, an incredible singing or a dance move, or you see a footballer do something amazing, and you think, oh man, I wish I could do that. There's like a thought, and you want to copy someone, don't you?
Yeah.
That's what Satan, Lucifer looked at God like that, and he thought, I want that, and he tried it, and he failed, and he got thrown out of heaven, and because he wanted to be his own God. The Bible says, he said in his heart, I will be like the Most High. It wasn't enough for him to be like number two. He wanted number one, but God is God alone, and you can never be God unless you are God. You can never become God, because one of the things about being God is that you've always got to have been Him. He's an eternal being. So he tried his coup on the throne of God, and he failed, and God threw him out of heaven. So guess what he's going to try and get you to do? Be your own God.
Be your own God. So worship yourself.
Yeah, do your own thing.
So is that, in your opinion, why they have the celebrity lifestyle is pushed down people so much, because they're creating false idols for people to worship?
Exactly, yeah. Exactly. The reason why they're hyping football up, why you've got, 100,000 men chanting in the stadium, literally going like that when you see them on the camera, and why they're making them financial gods, giving them even £250,000 before sponsorship for kicking a ball around for just 7 days, 2 hours a morning, 5 days a week. The reason why Satan's made this system of unbelievable hype is because he wants people to worship idols. Because if you're worshipping an idol, you're breaking the first commandment, which is, I am the Lord thy God, thou shalt have no other gods before me. So you don't need to be sat in a pentagram lighting candles or taking drugs even or doing anything like that. You just need to not be worshipping God, and you've broken his commandments.
Um, one more point on worship, and then I'll move it along. And I'm not trying to be argumentative or creative, but what about people that don't know anything of religion? What if Christianity never came into somebody's life? Can they still be saved without asking for Jesus?
Yeah, of course, because if you're born, let's say you're born in Siberia and you never even hear the name of Jesus, you live and die. Obviously, God's not an evil, unjust God. He's not just going to throw them into hell because they were born into the wrong country. That's absurd. What God judges then is by the heart. It says in the book of Romans, their own heart will either accuse them or excuse them on the day of judgment. So, in effect, if that Siberian man from 500 years ago, if he loved his neighbour, if he loved truth and righteousness and holiness, if he loved all those things, then he did love God without realizing it. He did love Jesus. He did believe in Jesus without even realizing him as Jesus. So he will still go to heaven because he's followed after Jesus without realizing it.
Okay, thank you, Phil. um, Back to flat Earth. I don't know where to go now after all that. Has been very interesting and educational for me, because a lot things you touched on there I hadn't actually, I wasn't aware of. So thank you for that. And you've given me lots of things to research myself, or well, to look into anyway. So we were talking about. I've lost my page now. I've written so much down because I was saying, oh yeah, we was talking about the MK Ultra and demon possession and the powers that be. Bringing it back to men and people, and just say they're bad people or whatever. But if like the government and the whole thing with the TV programming and everything, it's quite clear for me to see hidden agendas in TV programs. Trying to twist people's minds into thinking a certain way. If it's the government doing that, I can't really ask you this now, because you can only answer from your perspective, and yours is a religious one, isn't it? So, oh dear, I'm stuck. Well, no, I'm just thinking, like, because they go all out, but for me, it's more about like power corrupting people and money corrupting people. People become greedy, and also I could imagine a power being very addictive to people. Like I always say that uniforms are a form of insanity. Like, you put a uniform on and people suddenly go insane, and they want to impose their will on you, you know, like traffic wardens and policemen and things like that. I know they're doing jobs and they're following orders, but there are times when surely they can see that they're doing the wrong thing. And is a paycheck enough for people to keep doing the wrong thing? And I think that sometimes it's the power over other people that's more rewarding to them than a paycheck.
Yeah, but they only got in those positions of power in the first place by doing those demonic sacrifices. We have the eyewitness testimony of so many people, like Arizona Wilder and the Steve Quayle one that I just said, and many, many others. I've forgotten all the names of these people. I'm sure you've read about them, Kathy O'Brien and many, many others. We've eyewitnessed these people doing these ceremonies, and these people aren't lying. They're not making it up for no reason. You know, these are extremely dangerous confessions that they're making. They wouldn't just make it up. And over again, we see these hand signs and the constant programming of Satanism in the culture. And some of them even admit it. Remember, Bob Dylan admitted it was part of the deal he made back then in that interview where he sold his soul to Satan. He admitted that. And he said it was part of the deal he said we all made back then. The Beatles, the Rolling Stones. You look at the Rolling Stones song, Sympathy for the Devil, Bridges to Babylon, Paint It Black. They drench their album, heavy metal cover constantly. Black Sabbath, that's a satanic holiday. Judas Priest, White Snake, they're drenched in satanic symbolism and meaning for a reason. That's how they get in power, is they make these deals with Satan. And if Satan's real and Jesus is real.
Yes. So I'm going to change the topic now because I want to talk about what you think might be out there across the plane of existence, and how far do you think the plane of existence stretches? Do you think that, well, we're told that you know, the Earth is 25,000 miles in, what is it, circumference? So this is supposed to be a ball, but obviously say it's like I say it is, and it's like that. Do you think that it only stretches, it is 25,000 miles, and that's the end of it, you know, that's the limits of the Earth? Or do you think that they're hiding some land from us, and it could go on for much further?
Well, it may go on a little further, but eventually you'll bump into the dome, the firmament as the Bible calls it. The Bible says he hath made the sky firm. And if you keep going up and up and up, eventually you'll hit something solid. And that's why I believe they did Operation Fishbowl. And, you know, they're telling us like that. And, yeah, there's no way out. This is the place where God has put us. He's ordained this place as the place for us to believe in his son, Jesus. And if you went out, I bet you would find that the landmass is probably different than even what we think it is. But I think if I was to guess, I would think there probably is an ice ring, or my best guess would be that the ice ring is encircling us. If you keep on going over the top of that ice, eventually you'll just run into the dome and you can't get out. I don't think it's that high above us. I think it's only a few dozen miles probably high above us, I would think. And the North Pole at the centre, I believe, with something magnetic, because all the compass needles are telling us to go there, aren't they, pointing there? So it seems to be that there's possibly this magnetic mountain. Yeah, maybe, probably so. But whatever it is, yeah, I don't know. It probably would. I bet if we saw it from above now, it'd probably surprise every one of us.
Because whenever I've been in an aeroplane, because you just mentioned being above, all I see is, well, when we're up there, I don't see anything except the sun, blue sky, and then a layer of cloud. It's only when we start coming down a little bit that I see the land. But whenever there is land there, it's just empty land, which makes me question the whole overpopulation story. You know,
sheer overpopulation is something so ridiculous. I think, Greenland, the size they're showing us on the map, I bet you that there's something different. It's so huge on the map, Greenland, and yet we never see any documentaries on it. Never, nothing on the TV about it. It's not famous really. It's just like there's something different. There's something. The line about Greenland, I believe. Um, yeah, I believe land masses are not the size they're telling us in probably a few cases, and not the places that they tell us even. We know everything these people do is a lie, so they'll just arrange it however they needed to arrange it for their control grid. That's how they will have done it.
Yeah, they do have a lot of control, it seems. I definitely am with you on the land masses being different to what we're told, and maybe not in the place. Well, obviously that we've been exactly set out the way we've been told to set out. But I always have this sneaky suspicion that they have within our parameters anyway that we know. I think they've got like secret islands, but bigger than islands, where the very elite live their lives.
They've certainly got underground places. They've got military bases underground with like 100,000 people, 50,000, 20,000 people living there. There's the eyewitness testimony for that. There's many eyewitnesses. Also, we know that the cave systems underground, they go on for, I think, a few miles, some of them at least. So some of these giants, these Nephilim, have been seen inside these caves. And in 2003, some of the US Marines shot dead one of these giants in Kandahar, like a 15-foot tall giant. It killed some of the men, and eventually they were able to machine gun it down. And these things definitely exist. They're definitely from Genesis chapter 6, and they're definitely of the devil. And
Have you fallen asleep there, Phil? Have I gone on too long?
no, my eyes, no, not at all. My eyes are sore. Can you see my eyes closed?
Yeah, I can see your eyes closed, but if it's just because you can't not because you're not tired, then that's fine. I just didn't want to keep you up, that's all.
No, you're not keeping me up. I'm not tired at all. I'm just resting my eyes, that's all. I'm not tired.
Okay. Good. Yeah, do let me know if I'm keeping you up, because I don't want to intrude on you. What was we talking about? Oh, underground. Oh, these cave systems. See, when you say a cave, I'm imagining something small and tight, but then you're saying like 15-foot beings.
Yeah, there's some huge cave systems. I mean, even online, even the TV themselves have shown us that underground, there's some caves that look actually like the outdoors, the above ground world. They're that big, and there's huge things, and they've got technology, like we said, that they don't reveal to us. I read one whistleblower said that they've got rock boring machines that can tunnel through rock at 7 miles an hour. That's jogging speed. So imagine how quickly you could build an underground city. And one man drove to the tunnel. This is filmed on YouTube. He drove in with a lorry with loads of food supplies to the mouth of this tunnel. And this interviewer just says, "What are you doing here?" And he says, "Well, every single week we're bringing this amount of food in all the time." So that he said the amount of people in here must be staggering. We have all these eyewitness testimonies that I've seen and forgotten. I've seen countless testimonies of all these things that definitely prove that they've got entire cities living underground. And all those entities that the Bible talks about, that in Genesis 6, they're coming back on the earth. Now, if you type in if you want to see what they're going to look like, they're telling you on the floor of Denver Airport, I think it is. But the painting or the mural, whatever it's called, on the floor is called Re-Emergence Day. So if you type in online, Re-Emergence Day, giants from the abyss, just type in something like that, and you'll see what these giants that are going to come onto the earth look like.
We'll do that. Yeah, because going back to that technology you was just talking about, the one that can bore holes at 7 miles an hour. I did always wonder about these underground bases, because I've listened to many testimonies of people that have been taken into underground bases for whatever purpose, And they've always described them as being absolutely huge in scale. And I've always had trouble trying to imagine, how have they built these places? It must take decades because it's all, it's underground, so it's a lot harder work building something underground than it is on top. But if they've got technology, like you say, then it's going to make the job a lot easier.
Yeah, they've got phenomenal technology. They've got trains that move about 2,000 miles an hour, so I read, from many different sources. So they can get from one side of America to the other in very little time, and everything's connected underground. And these entities, these giant entities, that Jesus said, as it was in the days of Noah, so it will be in the days of the Son of Man. In other words, when I come back. And there were giants on the earth in the days of Noah, and these giants are coming back. It says that it talks about men's hearts failing themselves for fear of the things coming upon the earth. So that means men are going to look at these things and just drop dead of a heart attack, some men. They're going to be that dreadful. But this is what happens when a man and a woman 6,000 years ago commit high treason against the Most High God in collusion with the evil one, Satan. It ruins everything.
Is there anything in these prophecies to say when this will happen?
No, we don't know when Jesus is going to come back. Jesus himself said, no man knoweth the day or the hour. But that's not to say you couldn't know the rough approximate season. Like I say, I would guess a few decades from now, but I could be wrong. But, yeah, it will happen. It will happen.
Sorry, I've gone silent again. I'm just thinking about doomsday. See, I was under the impression, I keep going back to it, but I had this thought the other day. Someone was saying that through things that they've looked at and read about and looked into, that it seems to them that there's some kind of reset every 400 years. And then they just completely, give us a false history and read all the rest of it. But I was thinking, what if there's not a reset every 400 years? What if they just use these wars to keep, they go have war on a certain land, redistribute all the people, flatten it, build it up again, and then move people back in, and they can just give people whatever history they want, make them speak a new language, because they do that anyway, with they take over places and they kill all the old people, and any young people that are born, they make them all speak whatever language it is that the invaders were. So it wouldn't be very difficult to give people a false history if you think of it along those lines. I see, like Shakespeare says, the whole world's a stage. That's how I see it. And like these wars are just clearing out the old stage to build a new stage in localized areas.
Yeah, but there is no 400-year reset. There's no such thing as that. Basically, these devil worshippers, ever since the Tower of Babel, when Nimrod wanted to set up his one world government, God split the languages up then at that time. All the earth before then spoke one language, so that it was very easy for them to be unified. But when God separated all the languages, there's hundreds of languages now in the world, isn't there, if not thousands. God separated them into those languages so they would not be able to come together as one in defiance of him. So imagine how monumental it is now, because if you can't speak somebody else's language, there's no unity, is there? Everybody's just going to go away in their own separate groups with their own language. And it's taken thousands of years for Satan to bind them all back together now, which over the next few decades he will have his one world government, I believe, over the next few decades. It was that monumental to split those languages up. Because language is obviously communication, and you're nothing without that. But now, at the top, they are trying to constantly just make us all one. They always talk about one world, don't they? They're trying to, through immigration, they're trying to make everybody feel like they're even one world inside their own country, and all these things. But like I said, Trump is not one of them. I don't believe he's one of them at all. But you'd have to watch that thing on Sid Roth before you make a judgment on it, and just watch the Mark Taylor prophecy. And like I say, we'll know if the prophecy is correct because he said very soon. He said that one of the signs that this thing's going to happen is that a volcano, the Sumatran volcano, is going to explode. And that happened a few months ago. And already this indictment starting to come in America. There's a lot, if you look on InfoWars, there's a lot of things happening behind the scenes now that's going to come forward. And I really do believe that Hillary and Obama will be going to jail. And one of the prophecies that Mark Taylor gave is that Obama's going to be stripped of his presidency because he wasn't really born in America or whatever. You know, his birth certificate is forged. That was proven. It was a very bad forgery as well. So he's going to be stripped of his presidency. And and they're both going to jail. And I know, as I'm saying this now, I can see all the conspiracy theories saying that it can't happen, it won't happen. But when it does happen, you'll realise these people are not untouchable.
Well, I'll believe it. Yeah, I can't ever see that happening. I hope it does. I hope all the evildoers in the world get sent to prison and get the comeuppance in this life. But I just can't see it because like I said, I just feel like they're all actors playing a part and reading a script. Like when, you know, for example, Obama, I think he was 3 times in 1 year mentioned flat Earth and flat Earth Society, etc. Now, I don't think that's because he was privy to the fact that this information was blowing up on the internet. I think that's because someone's written in a speech and he's got a teleprompter telling him how to deliver it. See? So I mean, I'm not saying I can't be wrong. Of course I can be wrong. I just don't think that he's ever really in charge of the country. And I cannot get my head around the idea that Donald Trump's in charge of the country. You know, you said earlier that he's a very charismatic man. He's really I hate it when I lose my words when I'm just in the middle of something, but very powerful man and successful man, and it's not hard to imagine him being a president. But actually, it is hard for me to imagine him being a president when he was never, to my knowledge, a political figure before then. Like he may have been involved in politics, and he probably bribed a few politicians in his time, but do you see where I'm coming from? It wasn't.
Exactly what you mean, but this is where the X factor of God comes in. When God decrees something, all the devil worshippers in the world can't do anything against it. So because of those 10,000 people praying, I think they were praying 24/7. Like one person would pray for 15 minutes, then they would hand the baton to another person. They would pray for 15 minutes. And when you have 10,000 people on Facebook going, just constantly soaking him in prayer to get him into power, God honors the prayers of people. Remember, Satan is ruling the world, true. And even now, he's still the God of this world. But God is still God. If God decrees something, it will happen. Even though Satan is the God of this world, God is still above him in the whole ultimate shebang. So I believe God put Trump in power. And you'd have to, like I say, I'm not telling you even 1/100th of it here. You'd have to watch that program. And I'd say another good thing to watch as well, Zanny, is type in Jonathan Cahn, that's CAHN.
Yeah.
And type in the mystery of the Shemitah. And that shows how all of world history works on this cycle of God, like at the 49-year or the 50-year cycle, because the 50 year in the Bible is the year of Jubilee, which meant in Israel, after every 50 years, all debts were forgiven. It was God's mercy law. So just type in Shemitah, SHEMITAH. So it's Jonathan Cahn, Shemitah, and it just tells you to the year how these things keep happening exactly on cue throughout world history. But it could not be a coincidence. And you know, he talks about Trump as well.
Yeah, I agree that these things aren't a coincidence.
Well, definitely not.
But I'll have a look and see if I can get my head around around a different way of thinking. Do you follow politics, Phil?
Only through not through TV, just through YouTube.
Yeah, but I mean, do you follow British politics through YouTube?
Yeah, just through YouTube though.
So do you think there's any chance that if we all prayed, we could change British politics?
Definitely. It would happen like that, but you'd need a huge body of people praying seriously, but not just praying, but repentance and prayer. Unrighteous people's prayers mean nothing to God. The Bible says the fervent prayer of a righteous man availeth much. So what would need to happen is that all the Christians in the country would have to get their act together to stop worshipping a footballer or any pop star, any idol, any useless things like that, meaningless things that take away God's his rightful place. They'd have to ditch all that, and they would have to pray and really do what the Americans did. Because they saw a bad thing for Obama. They got serious in prayer, and God's given them Trump as a reprieve, I believe.
Well, surely there's enough Christians in the UK, to get together and network and organise something like this.
There is, I believe there is. It needs to happen, really. And yeah, because we need someone like a Trump who's not controlled by them, who's not a devil worshipper. Yeah.
I'm sure I've seen Trump throwing up the horn sign, though.
Yeah, but I've done that.
No, but I mean to the camera on multiple occasions.
Yeah, but that's just a rock and roll symbol as well, isn't it? Obviously, it's a cultural thing that now, isn't it? It's become so popular, it's lost all meaning, that, doesn't it?
Yeah. No, I suppose. I mean, it did become a rock and roll thing, and kids do it. They throw it up to each other, and they've no idea, what it's supposed to really mean. But I don't know. I'm just like, I'm not so sure he's as good as you think he is. But I hope he is for everybody's sake. I hope that he does make America great again, and I hope that these people do find the way to prison, hopefully somewhere that's, no, sorry, I can't say that, can I? I'll go to hell. I was going to say hopefully somewhere that's got the death penalty, but that's not my judgment, obviously. Yeah, I was only joking when I said that, but I'm not joking. I think, but it's a bad thing, isn't it? But it's like, I think people should take the power away from governments. I think I can't say this on YouTube. I can't say this on YouTube. I'll get arrested. Right, I'm changing the conversation before they come and kick my door in. Maybe I'll put it in the comments what I was thinking later.
Is the chat functioning?
If the cat fits.
No.
In the captions, right?
No,
Yeah.
I said, is the chat functioning?
I can't see the chat, so
We don't even know whether anybody's watching us.
Oh, there's 5 people watching just now. So good evening, everybody. Thank you for viewing. I hope we've not bored you to death. I've had a really interesting conversation, and looking at things from your perspective, Phil. It's certainly very, very interesting. I could talk about it all night, and I was going to say I don't really care what other people want to listen to. I do care, but I just I'm really enjoying this conversation. Yeah, we're talking about politics and the bad people. Like, do you think that the flat Earth information, I don't want to call it a movement because the Earth doesn't move, does it? But and there's nothing moving. But do you think this information has been released deliberately to the masses, or do you think that people just came to it Do you think they were always going to come to it ultimately?
God's released this truth. These devil worshippers never wanted to know that. None of these people in the flat earth are shills. People keep saying this of Mark Sargent, Patricia Steer, even Eric DeBay, people like that. None of these people are shills. God, 3.5 years ago, God just basically released that truth through these people, and even though they don't even know him yet, most of them, and he just released it to the world because it's a pivotal time now. We need to know the Earth's flat, and there's no aliens coming from Zeta Reticuli, and the whole ball of cosmology is a complete lie. We need to know that because the times they're going to bring these aliens, aliens in inverted commas, a few decades from now. So we know that their cosmology is a complete lie. That's already under our belt now. So God released this truth. It wasn't released by these devil worshippers in any way. It was just an organic thing that was done by God through people like Eric DeBay and Mark Sargent and whatnot, and NASA, Matt Boylan and Powland and all them, and there's no shills.
So then, yeah, it's your opinion that it wasn't deliberately fed into our subconscious by the powers that be. That it's the truth and it's come from God. You said.
Why would they want you to know that?
I don't know. Maybe I've no idea. They didn't tell me. I found out on my own.
Yeah.
So
they don't want you to know their secrets. So no.
But they do tell us the truth though, don't they, in things that they do. They do, like with predictive programming, for example, they tell us in advance, like they don't tell us directly what they're going to do, but it's kind of paving the way for your subconscious to accept it when it does happen, because it's been pre-programmed into you.
Yeah, there is that, and they like to play games as well, don't they? Like putting on Neo's passport in the Matrix, his birthday or expiry date, September the 11th, and whatnot. And I've seen all them. I've done endless research and all that. So they like to mock us, and they like to play games like that. It's true, but they don't want the whole world to know the Earth's flat. I mean, no way. They don't want that to come out. They don't want. Maybe on a grander scheme, what God does is He allows them this sort of unbelievable arrogance so that the secret can escape, so that we can find out, if you know what I mean. So we do have the ammunition to find out these things, what these people are doing, but they don't actually want us. Like the world rulers do not want everybody to become a flat earther tomorrow. They don't want that.
No. If the information keeps if people keep finding out and people keep accepting the information, you can sit in here if you want. How long do you think it would be before there's a tipping point and the majority of people know the Earth's flat, as opposed to how it is now?
It's hard to gauge that one, isn't it? I just think it'll be like 9/11. If I had to guess, I would say it'd be like 9/11, a gradual filtering through, more and more people realizing it. But I don't think that the whole world will be flat earthers before Jesus comes back. I just don't see how that will work. Because the whole thing falls to that, doesn't it? I mean, if people knew the Earth was flat tomorrow, they wouldn't have a problem believing any other conspiracy theory, would they? You'd have a willing audience then, beyond belief, wouldn't you? You could tell them about cloning, about shapeshifters, you could tell them everything. All bets are off then if the Earth's flat, isn't it? But just like 9/11, if you'd have said in 2002, 9/11 was an inside joke, people would have laughed at you or mocked you or scorned you. But if you say it now, most people probably won't agree with you, but they wouldn't laugh at you anymore.
Well, no, because they have heard it all, haven't they? Not heard it all, but there are lots of 9/11 skeptics out there. So, but that's taken how long? 17 years for that. to get to that point. So it's not quick, is it?
You know, I was saying it's more the heart than the head.
Yeah.
You know, a researcher called Richard D. Hall.
Yes.
Well, he's done excellent conspiracy work on lots of false flags like 9/11 and whatnot.
Yes.
And he just said in his last video that he thinks the flat Earth is a psyop to discredit the truth movement, basically. And he's not
Yes.
said anything about flat Earth for 3.5 years, and then he just suddenly said that, just a quick comment like that. Now, he's a very good researcher. He's done tremendously detailed work on Maddie McCann and all kinds of things like this. And he's done excellent work, but so he's certainly intelligent enough to understand that the Earth is flat as well. But even he is saying he thinks it's a psyop. So that, to me, it tells me that's more of a spiritual blockage. It's just like he just can't accept it. Not because he's not intelligent enough. If he knows about 9/11, he's had Judy Wood on his show, directed energy weapons and all that, fake moon landings, fake Mars missions, all that, then obviously it's easy to think that the Earth could be flat, but he doesn't accept that. So it's more like a spiritual spell of unbelief, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know.
Well, I don't know what's stopping him from looking into it. Like you said, he's a very good researcher, and he presents his work very well. And interesting that you brought him up, because I did contact him a long time ago. I emailed him and I asked him to look at it, and I just got a quick response saying, don't be so easily fooled. How the Earth's not flat. You can prove this by yourself down at the seaside with a piece of string. And if you hold the piece of string up to where the horizon is, where the sky meets the sea, there will be a clear arc. It won't be straight. You won't be able to get that straight line to line up with the horizon. That was his response.
Right.
But that was a long time ago. So that was 3 years ago, at least. And so he's had 3 years to think about it, and he still thinks it's a psyop.
Yeah.
But one thing was, didn't he do a lot of stuff for aliens and things? A lot of research into that.
Yeah. So it's sort of it's like an agenda. It's like with him, it might think, oh, that upsets all my other theories, you know. But it doesn't. He has to understand that, you know, the aliens still exist, but not from the Pleiades. They're not just from another planet, like us. They're just demonic. I mean, I could explain it to him in an evening easily. I bet I could turn him into a flat earther in an evening.
Hopefully, you'll get that chance one day.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be great? We could do it like a challenge on YouTube.
Yeah.
I'd tune in for that.
Yeah. I mean that. Yeah, it's so obvious, isn't it?
Well, yeah. So yeah, I was kind of thinking at that point when he gave me that response, I was thinking, well, he's invested a lot of time and a lot of work into the idea that there are beings living in outer space that can travel, in ships, etc. So I was thinking maybe it's a little bit hard for him at this point to consider it, but was hoping that if there was enough noise made about it, that he would at least look into it. And since then, there's been a lot of noise made about it, and so it's still got that closed door. So maybe it is a spiritual blockage, like you said.
Exactly, because it's the desire, isn't it? He's got some. Yeah, he's got to let down some of his previous theories, you see, that he might not want to let down in his heart and his mind. And that's where it's the heart, not the head. But the flat earthers all around the world, they need to understand something about these aliens. They definitely do exist, but they're not aliens from another, planet. But if 3-4 decades from now, don't be surprised when you see those motherships hovering over city centres, like, an eighth of a mile wide. There are real ships. They're probably going to fake stuff with holograms as well, but they do have that technology as well. They do have it's real. You are going to see these beings on the TV, and they are going to be non-human, but they're simply demonic human hybrids and demonic animal hybrids. Like Bigfoot is real, Dogman is real, all these things have been seen certainly hundreds of thousands of times. That's a very conservative estimate. I spent probably easily over 100 hours researching stuff like Bigfoot and Dogman. These things are being seen all over the world, especially America, and it's 100% certainly real. But Bigfoot activity, tandem with the UFO thing, it's been seen appearing into our dimension through a portal, and it does things that are interdimensional. It does things that make you think it's flesh and blood, but then it'll do things that are impossible for flesh and blood, like suddenly vanishing. So it's an interdimensional thing. That's the concept that everybody's got to get their head around. Exactly like it says in Genesis 6, the angels, that's a spirit being, slept with the women, those are flesh and blood beings. So now the offspring is going to be a hybrid, isn't it? It's going to be interdimensional. It can operate in the spirit realm and the physical realm. And that's what Bigfoot can do. And that's what it's been seen doing. So it can pick up those rocks and throw them at people 100 yards away. But yet it can just disappear into a portal. So these things are definitely real. People need to know that they're real. Yeah.
When just talking about them ushering in the existence of aliens as a physical being here on Earth, like we come in peace.
Yeah.
A lot has been made of Project Bluebeam. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think that's a real thing, Project Bluebeam?
Yeah.
Or do you think they don't even need that if they wanted to do this?
Well, what they'll probably do, they'll mix real and fake in. What they'll do, there will be some holographic projections of huge things in the sky, maybe, yeah. But these giant entities definitely are real. You are going to see them marauding up and down the streets decades from now. And people are going to die in heart attacks, some people, when they see them. And like I say, if you want to see what they look like, just type in that re-emergence day page on, I think, Denver Airport or wherever it is. But these things definitely are real. But yeah, they definitely do have that holographic technology as well. They'll do a mixture of real and fake. But these entities definitely are real. That's why the world's like it is now. They're working in cohorts, and the amount of possibility is phenomenal. Phil Schneider's witness test, that's been on, I think, Ancient Aliens as well. Now, Ancient Aliens is just a propaganda tool of the mainstream. They want you to believe in these aliens. They want you to just do whatever the aliens say. But anyway, the story of Phil Schneider is still real. He had a fight, like a firefight with these aliens, and they blew about 3 fingers off his hand off and made a big scar in his belly. And he shows his scar. He shows his hand with like only 2 or 3 fingers left. And eventually he died in suspicious circumstances. They probably suicided him because he knew too much. And he's just one of many whistleblowers that said these things definitely are real. They definitely are in military bases underground, and they definitely have spoken with world leaders and all this. And this is Genesis 6 happening again, exactly like Jesus said before he returned. He said, "As it was in the days of Noah, so it shall be in the days of the Son of Man," i.e., when I return. And we're seeing that more and more now. And that's why, I'll tell you what you can do. If you go on Wikipedia, you just type in alien films and TV series. That's forgetting the books, magazines, websites, radio articles, conventions. Forget all that. Just type in alien films and TV series and scroll down at whiz speed and see how long it takes to get to the bottom of the page. Then you'll know what propaganda is.
Yeah, they do like to push that a lot, don't they? The idea of aliens living in outer space that can maybe someday us. They have been pushing that on us a lot. Talking about something that we can see, and everybody can definitely see them, but not everyone agrees what they are. Chemtrails.
Yeah.
My view on that is that the multifunctional, but mainly not to poison us all and to make us all sick, because we'd be no good dead to them, but to control the weather. And there's nothing like playing God than controlling the weather. What do you think about chemtrails, Phil? What's your take on them?
Well, let's look at the facts that we know for certain. First of all, we know they're real. We see them with our own eyes. It's not CGI. We're seeing them with our own eyeball to object proof. Not unimpinged by a NASA CGI image. They're definitely real, and they're definitely changing the sky a different color. They've even admitted that in the documents. Al Gore admits it on the Ellen DeGeneres show. The sky now is a paler blue than when I was a child. So, and they've been found with like aluminium, barium oxide, or whatever. Some people say that anyway. I've not proved that to myself. I'm just saying that's what people are saying, that they've found those in like residue on the earth or whatever. They believe they're coming down from these chemtrails from the sky. So people say that. I don't know whether that's true for certain or not, but I don't know what the purpose of chemtrails is, but it's got to be something sinister, obviously, because these evil people are doing this. Um, I've heard it said that they're trying to make like a more of a cinematic screen for the sky for when they do these Project Blue beams, but people will just believe that even without any. They've got the technology to do that anyway without making the sky a different colour. So I don't see that, but I don't know what it is, to be honest. All I know it's real, it's sinister, and it's changing the sky a paler blue. We know they have this weather weapon technology, and that's countless evidence has come out about that. Whistleblowers.
Weather weapon technology. Can you just explain that to the viewers, please?
Well, the whistleblowers have spoken out. I've seen many testimonies about this, where they can chime a frequency at the Earth's crust and make an earthquake, for example. They can make tornadoes and whirlwinds. Like 9/11 had a hurricane, didn't it, on that very same morning? Coincidence? Obviously not. And they can do all these things, and they can cause flooding. And Jesus said before he returns, he said there's going to be earthquakes, floods, pestilence, famines. The amount of earthquakes now is phenomenal. It's huge. There's so many earthquakes happening in vast proportions now. You think of the Chilean earthquake, the Italian earthquake, the Haitian earthquake, the Christchurch earthquake, all killing thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people. I mean, each earthquake, they certainly killed hundreds of thousands of people in totality. But this is even far more than when I was a child. But the earthquake now is going off the charts. So exactly as Jesus said it would be, the basic faith in this. They've got these incredibly high technology cores, and like any bad manufacturers, like to dominate the planet every other child. But they're like that as like 50, 60-odd-year-old men with, world ruling technology.
Oh, it's 20 to 1. I think we've been talking for 3 hours. Have we? Have we been talking for 3 hours? 2. Okay. It's a good job you're there, Phil. Yeah, he was talking about all that and the chemtrails. Yeah, earthquakes you just mentioned there. There are lots of earthquakes these days. It's been gradually getting more and more since I was a kid. I mean, obviously as a child, I didn't watch the news so often, but I don't remember there being so many earthquakes. Because when there was an earthquake, it made the news. So they did stick out in your mind, and it always seemed like the most frightening thing in the world, for the earth to move, which is really funny because we're told that the earth's moving, so to begin with. But then when there's an actual earthquake and it really does move, then it terrifies you. But could the earthquakes, I mean, I've no doubt that they can create earthquakes, either by letting massive explosions off under the sea, or directing energy weapons at the ground or whatever. But could the earthquakes not be a result of like mass mining? Because it's quite obvious that the Earth's mined to death. What do you think?
No, I don't. I believe it's contrived. I don't believe that. They can do it with this weather weapon technology, I believe. Plus, also, when these demon spirits are released from underground, that could cause earthquakes as well, because all these strange sounds, you heard all these weird noises, like sound like metallic bars being opened, incredibly loud sounds, and not all of that is fake. I mean, you can fake that, obviously, you can do that, but I really believe that a lot of that is real, and it's like these beings from underground. It's God warning us that they're coming upon the earth, and they will be seen. You know, that Incredible Hulk. You know where he's fighting that other monster in one of the Hulk films about a few years back. You're gonna see those things. You're gonna see them. They're gonna be physically real. Decades from now, that is coming to the earth. Whether people want to believe that, it is going to happen, because it's exactly as it was in the days of Noah. It will be as it was before Jesus comes back. It has to be, that prophecy has to be fulfilled.
Back to the chemtrails again. Do you know, like, I said we agreed that everyone can see them with their own eyes, but there seems to be a lot of denial in some people, where they just think, no, they're clouds. We've always had clouds like that, or it's just their passenger jet. Why do you think that is? Why do you think they can't recognise them for being something that's not supposed to be there? You know.
Well, like I said before, it's the heart, not the head. Again, if they're to accept everything's a lie, then their life changes on a sixpence, doesn't it? And if a person doesn't want their life to change, you could provide them with the most staggering evidence, i.e., a hologram plane on 9/11, or a fake moon landing or a squirrel on Mars, or, you know, you could confront them with evidence time after time, but it won't do anything. If they don't want to believe, they won't believe. But one more thing about chemtrails is there's another dimension of strangeness to this, because some of those chemtrail planes have suddenly been videoed just blinking out of existence. So it's really weird. I don't know what they are, but I don't know whether it could even be something like interdimensional as well, them chemtrails, because it's physical, because you can see it with your own eyes. You don't need your spiritual eyes open to see them. Everybody sees them. But yet the planes have been filmed vanishing. So what are we to make of that? It's like a weird thing, maybe like it's UFO technology with a cloaking device, as the plane for the cloaking device, when really it's not a plane, it's not a jet. You know, that enslaved by media, or enslaved by no media, he's definitely right about that jet fuel thing. There's no way that on the Airbus A300 or whatever it was, that 83 cars worth of weight can fit on either wing. That is just absurd. You know, the weight would be ridiculous. So they're not. I don't believe they are running on jet fuel. Or certainly not entirely jet fuel. The amount of weight in those wings is far too heavy. So I believe it probably is air compression. You know, and there's another thing as well. The speed. He's right about the speed as well. When you look at those planes, even in the distance, obviously the law of perspective apart, they're still not moving anywhere near fast enough to be at 500 mile an hour. They only look like they're moving about 90 mile an hour, 100 mile an hour when they're in the sky. Even from a distance away, a long distance away, 500 mile an hour is an incredible speed. You know, you think about how fast that is. It's 70, times that by about, so it's about 7 times the speed you're driving on the motorway. Now, that even from a distance away, that would look quicker than it is. You know, it's not the law of perspective that those planes are going nowhere near 500 mile an hour. They're going about, maybe at the peak they might be going about, I don't know, 200 mile an hour or something like that. They're moving very slowly through the sky compared to what they're telling us. You can just tell just by looking at them. The 500 mile an hour is a tremendous speed, and they are not moving that fast. No way.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because I have thought that myself, and I've been on an aircraft. Are you still there, Phil?
Yeah.
Yeah. When I've been on an aircraft, I've particularly at takeoff and landing. My God, landing, you're coming in so slow over those towns and cities because you're very low now. You know, you can see the playing fields and the houses and make out, you know, detail on the streets and stuff, off the streets, not on the streets. So it feels like you're going very, very slow. And I'm always trying to will the plane to go quicker, especially at takeoff. I don't feel fast enough that we're going to be able to get into the air.
Yeah, I know.
In my mind, I'm going off this idea of the speed and the drag and the lift and everything, and I'm thinking we're not going fast enough. We're not going to get off the ground, and then get up into the sky, and it just doesn't ever feel like you're going 500 miles an hour.
You feel like you're
I think
almost
on one
floating rather than whizzing by, don't you?
So I don't know how all that works, and what distances are really being travelled and how fast planes are really travelling. I've never been going. And you know when you're taking off and you're still on the runway, and you can see some painted lines on the runway.
Yeah.
Well, it just looks exactly the same as it looks when I look out of the car window at the painted lines on the tarmac on the motorway. Like, why is it not just all blurring into the same thing? I don't know. Just yeah, just
It's like,
felt fast.
after Flat Earth, there's a few other revelations come out, haven't there? Like with these planes and the giants, you know, the mountains, faces of mountains looking like giants' faces because they were giants. Yeah, I mean, it's all basically, I think what happened is with the advent of the internet, it's like God saying, that even though this technology was given to them by these demonic entities, God can still use it. I mean, obviously, we're using it right now to tell the truth to the world, aren't we? We're not
Yes.
part of that system, are we? So why aren't they stopping us? Because they can't. God doesn't allow them to do literally anything they want, or else we'd be dead right now, or join them. So basically, what happens is that when the internet came out about 20 years ago, it's like God saying, okay, I'm going to show the world everything now. Because on the internet, we know that BBC, ITV, ABC, CNN, they're just pure propaganda, they're just pure lies. But the internet is just a free for all. You can accuse royal families of being shapeshifters on YouTube and get 1 million views and not get taken down. It's a total free for all YouTube. It's the people's TV. It's like God saying to the world, I'm going to show the world the truth now. And He's done it. Everything's come out from 9/11 to hoax events like Sandy Hook. Nobody died in Sandy Hook. Obviously absurd. Everything's a lie. The Manchester bombing, it's all fake. Everything's fake. Nobody dies in these events. Everything's a lie. The flat earth has come out. The giants, the fuel and the plane wings, it's running on an air compression, I believe, like it's explained. It's cloning, everything, vaccines, chemtrails, the cat is completely out of the bag, and the whole world's been told. You know, can you think of anything that's not been touched now?
No, not really. No, I think you just did a quick. No, I can't think of anything that's not been. Well, no, I'd have to make no, not unless I start inventing things. It's yeah, there have been a lot of revelations, so it is like there are a lot of truths coming to light in this era. So
Like free energy as well, like cars that can run on water, and you know, magnets to me is going to be the thing that rules it all. That's because they're an astonishing thing, aren't they, magnets? And there's bound to be unbelievable technology that could just. Everybody should have their own flying saucers, Annie. You know, we're in the Back to the Future 2, where he goes, "Doc, you're not going to have enough road," and he puts his sunglasses and says, "Where we're going, we don't need roads," and the car just floats upwards. That's you should be driving to work in that, because obviously they've got that. You'd never think about how absurd it is to have nanotech in an iPhone and be going to, well, I say going to Mars 9 million miles away with a Wi-Fi connection that stretches here to 9 million miles away, and you're driving to work at 30 miles an hour over a pothole with rubber tires. I mean, that's just they're laughing at us, aren't they? Obviously. They've got the Voyager space probe still giving us photographs from billions of miles away. But according to Don Pettit, we can't go back to the moon because we destroyed that technology. It's a very painful process to build it back up again. Meanwhile, we're putting probes like, you know, the Curiosity roving around on Mars 9 million miles away, which is about 36 times further away than what they're telling us the moon is. So it's like someone saying I can bench press 1 million tons And then you say, well, it's very convenient because we can't fit 1,000,000 tons on the bar. But I'll tell you what, if you can just bench press 1 ton, which no man can come anywhere near that, even with steroids, and then the guy says, oh no, I never said I could bench press 1 ton. And then the world still believes him. You know, it's not reasonable to believe these things. So obviously it's not the heart. Sorry, it is the heart. It's not the head, it's the heart. Whenever you tell someone 9/11 was an inside job, it wasn't done by magical Arabs and, you know, autism in a vaccine, and you tell them all these things, you're speaking into the heart. It's not the head. It is not the head. These people are very good at paying their bills. They can speak languages. They can design architecture. They can be doctors and teachers and professors. They're no less intelligent than the average person on the street. So why aren't they seeing it? It's not the head. It's the heart. You're going again. When you speak a truth like that, it's like shining a shaft of light into the darkness. And if they're of the darkness and they don't want the truth, they will shut that light out. It doesn't matter how revelatory, it doesn't matter how obvious the light is. If they don't want it, they will not have it. And not even God will stop them from doing it because he doesn't interfere with their free will, so we can't do it either. We don't love them more than God does. Sometimes you just got to not everybody, you can't convert everybody. Jesus couldn't convert the Pharisees.
How has being a flat earther, has it changed your life in any way? Are you doing anything different to what you used to?
No, because I already knew Jesus. I already know he's the meaning of life. So it hasn't changed my life, and I'm glad to know it. I'm glad I've met people like yourself and all these meetups with, James meetups at Heaton Park. I'm glad to meet all the people and whatnot. But I already knew the Creator. So, I mean, flat Earth means literally nothing if you don't know who made it. Thank God that a lot of people who were atheists have become believers in God. If not Christians yet, believers in God. But land being flat or a ball or a triangle, it doesn't mean anything unless you know the person that made it, who loves you, and he wants you to spend. I mean, the biggest mystery, obviously, forget every conspiracy going on. The biggest mystery is what happens after you die, obviously. So why come all the flat earthers aren't talking about that? Surely once they find out there's a God, the next thing on their mind should be, right, what happens after you die? That should be the biggest thing they should want to know.
I've always been interested in what happens when you die. I find it fascinating, but I'll never know until it happens. And nobody ever comes back, do they, really?
Yeah, I've met people who've come back.
But the people have, near-death experiences. But tell me about what happened to one of the people.
I met Ian McCormack in Warrington about 10 years ago. He was stung by a Portuguese box jellyfish. He died, went to hell, and then Jesus rescued him from hell and took him up to heaven. And then he sent him back down to the earth. And he told him, I rescued you from hell because you cried out to me just 5 minutes before he died, or a couple of minutes before he died in that ambulance. He suddenly remembered his mum who was a Christian and used to pray for him. So he suddenly just cried out, God, forgive me, help me. Because he'd lived a bad life. He was a sinner, but we're all sinners, And he cried out to God, and Jesus said, because you prayed to me, I saved you. There's many others, there's one guy in Africa, he had a death certificate. He still can't travel abroad because he was declared officially dead for about 3 days, and he rose from the dead. And there's many others. I can't remember all the names, but I've met people like that who have been back from the dead.
I mean, I did used to read a lot of books on people that had near-death experiences and things, but what I just meant by saying people don't ever come back is like people that you actually know that died, and then after having a little holiday, they come back and told you all about it. Like I have read lots of testimonies of people having near-death experiences. And they're not all the same, but there seems to be a common theme in a lot of them. But What was we talking about before that? Dying. Oh, because you asked the question, why is everyone not asking why aren't all flat earthers asking what happens when you die?
If I did,
But
I'll put it like this: if I didn't know Jesus, I would spend all day, every day, trying to find out what happens after you die. That would be my only concern in life. It would have to be. I'd be too scared not to be. I'd think I have to make. If there's a hell, I have to make certain I don't go there. If there's a heaven, I have to make certain I do go there. That would be my all-consuming passion. But now I know I'm free to just do whatever. But that would be. I would do. That would be the only thing I would be interested in until I found it.
Sorry, I dropped my pen. Sorry. Yeah, I suspect there's many people ask that question to themselves, quite frequently. But yeah, you don't see a lot of people openly quit asking it. So where are we up to? Sorry.
How many people are watching us?
8 people.
8 people at this time, right?
I think we had a maximum of 12 at one point. So yeah, well done.
Yeah.
I think 12 is my highest view count actually.
Right.
on a live session. Next time you see Tom, you'll have to tell him that you beat his score. You doubled it, in fact. I tell you, but it is getting late, and my friend's here, and she needs to walk home soon. So I will call it a night. I want to thank you for your time, because I've had a really enjoyable evening, and you've told me lots of things I didn't know, and you've given me lots of things to go and look into. Hopefully, the people watching have enjoyed what you've had to say as well. And so yeah, I'll say good night. When I stop the broadcast, it will just hang up. So this is goodbye as well.
Okay.
Until then.
Thanks for the hangout.
Okay. If I remember, let me think. Is there anything else I wanted to ask you before? Because usually I put the phone down and I'm like, oh no, I forgot to ask. No, that's it. We'll call it a night.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Thank you very much, Joe.
Thank you.
I'll see you soon. Good night.